but let's real quick do some non-spoiler thoughts. So, Dave, how are you feeling coming out of that premiere?
Oh boy, I was a little nervous at first. I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad they dropped 2 episodes. I'm really glad they dropped 2 episodes. I'm feeling good after watching both, but I was a little nervous after episode one. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of issues with a lot of stuff that happened in episode one, and it had me feeling very nervous. So much so that I was pretty tired too. So I just went to bed. I was like, I'm too tired. I don't know if I can do this. It's been a rough day. I can't take more disappointment. I'm going to go to bed. And then the next day, I watched episode two and I loved it. I loved it. It brought back hope for me. It felt like Netflix Daredevil. So overall, I'm looking forward to next week. I think we may have something here.
Yep, I'm with you, dude. I think I didn't have as many issues with episode one. My only issues were the CGI. I thought some of that didn't work, and I guess I almost went too far into detail. For non-spoiler reviews, it felt off though. So episode one just felt off. It didn't feel like Netflix Daredevil. Um, even again, no more details, but I liked it a lot. Season two ended. I am glad they did 2 episodes because the way that season two ended, it kind of lets us know we're really going to get on track. And the first 2 episodes, you know, updated us on what's going on and stuff. So that was nice. Overall, very good to have Daredevil back. I was just thrilled to be watching Matt Murdock on screen again, and I'm very happy with the outcome. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to
Yeah,
episode three. Can't wait.
dude. Yeah, and yeah, no spoilers. But man, I was just so nervous after that. All these thoughts started going through my head of how am I going to trust the MCU after this if they blow this show? Like if they blow this, I don't know how I'm going to have much hope for the future here. And so again, I'm so glad episode 2 is out too. And I'm sure maybe on a rewatch I'll like episode 1 more. There are just some issues which people will see. I think it'll be some common complaints that comes out of it. Um, but it really did. Episode 1 felt like an MCU Daredevil show, and episode 2 felt like a Netflix Daredevil show. It really felt like
Totally.
the whole tone switch. So I almost wonder if a lot of episode 1 was kept in from all those reshoots they did. If maybe a lot of that episode was just left in originally. That's kind of the feel it had to it. But um, Daredevil's back, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I was totally thinking the same thing about reshoots. Anyway, look out for the full spoiler review with all three of the hosts here. And let's get into this comic. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Why So Sidious. Today we're going to do a comic book review, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil Volume 1. The title is No Fear, spelled Know, so tricky. Anyway, David's here. Caleb is off today, but he'll be here for a full spoiler Daredevil review on that first 2 episodes, like we talked about. We are at Why So Sidious Pod on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X. So give us a follow for some variety of content, and you could actually see all the live videos that we record. What else? Captain America: Brave New World is. We got a review coming out. We have our Weekend Geeks coming out. We did a Daredevil Born Again pregame with special guest Andy from the Galactic Core podcast. And anyway, that covers it. Basically, what we're gonna potentially do here, I think we're just gonna get that ball rolling, is something that we're going to call the Road to Devil's Reign, which is something very similar to what we did with Secret Wars, or are doing with Jonathan Hickman's Avengers runs, multiple volumes leading up to Secret Wars. Obviously, a big MCU project coming out. So, Daredevil dropping in the MCU is a big deal. So, we want to do a Devil's Reign Road to comic review series. Sounds like that's what the MCU is doing, especially if you've watched episode 1 and 2. That's about as spoilery as I'll get, but it definitely does seem like they're moving that direction with the whole um, shutting down heroes again with Kingpin as mayor, pulling that off with potentially a group of Thunderbolts or superheroes. So glad we're doing it. It's a lot of good comics, and yeah, been blabbing a lot. Dave, let me know how you feel about this volume of Daredevil. This is the first Daredevil comic for you, right?
It is. So I'm really excited to get into this whole road to Devil's Reign situation here because, yeah, I mean, I never really knew about Daredevil until the Netflix series dropped. Louis, holy crap.
No Ben Affleck, huh?
Oh, no, no, no. Good point. Yeah, I guess I blocked that out of my mind because, you know. So, yeah, that was all I knew about Daredevil was Ben Affleck. And then that Netflix series dropped and I was hooked. Not only just because of the ass kicking, but the philosophy that goes through it, the ethics and morality that is discussed, and the conversations, his religious duality with everything. I just really loved the show, and so I don't know why it took me so long to get into a comic run. But I'm stoked to dive into this because I already got a feel from what we read here that I'm gonna really enjoy Daredevil stories. It hit a lot of points that I like in my storytelling. So it was a really, really positive experience as far as a first entry into Daredevil comics goes.
That is awesome to hear. Yeah, I agree. It's one of the better ones, I think, but Daredevil has so many great comics. Um, what did you think of the couple cameos that they threw in here? And by the way, full spoilery detail moving forward for this comic book. Cameos, how'd you like them?
I thought they were used great.
Right.
I thought Punisher, the way they used Punisher, Frank Castle, we kind of got a variation of the scene we got in season 2 with their discussion on the rooftop. It wasn't quite the same, but there were some
Right.
little parallels here and there about it. But it was a really good scene between them and their dialogue between each other. So I thought that cameo was used solid. The little Defenders cameo thrown in there was a cool little touch to it. It made me, reminisce about the Netflix series there and make me wonder if we're going to see that in the MCU. But that was very brief. They didn't use that very much. It was pretty funny, the little panels we got out of it. And that final one with Spider-Man was awesome.
Yeah.
Not the typical Spider-Man cameo you see. I
Right.
don't think he cracked a joke. Maybe he said one thing, but I think that was like the most consecutive panels of Spider-Man dialogue I've ever seen without like sarcasm in it.
Yeah.
So,
Fully serious.
yeah, but it was cool. It was a really cool way to use Spider-Man, not in the way you would have thought. He basically
Yeah.
retires Daredevil essentially, but
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was really cool the way they used the cameos. So that was one of my notes on this was solid use of side characters in this.
Yeah. That was one of my original takeaways way back when I read it originally. I like how Spider-Man, or sorry, Daredevil says you could hear his heartbeat, and just by the sound of his heartbeat, you could tell how he's just a powerhouse. Like he's like the best of us. He says something like
Yeah,
that. It's pretty
he
sick.
said he could hear the muscles tensing and could sense the strength of the muscles tensing. He could tell it was a powerful being, a being that didn't even realize his own power kind of deal, which is another step into because Spider-Man's always that, well, we never really see his full power because he's always holding back. So it felt like a little nod to that too. So it was really cool how he was picking up on all these things of Spider-Man.
100%. So he writes it in a way that makes Spider-Man seem so badass. He also does that for Daredevil with that cameo with Punisher, because when Daredevil starts talking about what he could accomplish if he were to use these guns, like what did he say? Something about um, calling the Punisher something along the lines of "You might be you think you're the demon, but I'm the devil," something like that, and then he just shoots. But it was
Yeah.
badass. Pretty much Daredevil saying, "Dude, I would destroy you. And if I picked up guns, I'd be 10 times as efficient as you."
Yeah, I forgot what the line was too, but it was a pretty solid little one-liner there about him being the devil. And yeah, you think about it. I mean, and again, it makes me think. I'm gonna keep going back to the series, but it makes me think of Bullseye and the way he just hits everything in that series. And you have to think Daredevil with a gun would be
Yeah,
eerily similar.
yeah,
And it's just so cool the whole way they show Daredevil's radar sense in these panels and in the art. And so when you think of that, and then you throw in a firearm in there and everything, it's that's a death machine. What
Dude,
if? Maybe. Yeah.
right. It's funny because I actually love how they did it. I don't like the movie. I just like how in Ben Affleck's Daredevil, the rain helped him see things so vividly. I thought that
Mhm.
was such a cool detail that they didn't ever really
Totally.
play with in Netflix. I don't know if they do in the comics either, but creative.
Yeah, I don't know if they did that in Netflix, but that was there. There's a lot of cool ways to do this stuff, and I think who's Zdarsky. I think he had a lot of cool spots where he really showed the range of Matt's powers in a lot of creative ways throughout this volume. So I
Yeah,
really like that.
yeah. All right, let's rewind a little bit just to kind of get some context on this story. In our Born Again pregame episode, I mentioned that there's a really, really easy reading order to prepare for Born Again, starting with the introduction of Muse, and then that leading to Fisk becoming mayor, and that leading directly into Volume 1, the comic we're reviewing right now. So getting to know Muse, and then Muse through Mayor becoming Fisk becoming Mayor was that was all Charles Soule. So Charles Soule does all that stuff. Really cool. Muse is awesome. And then Zdarsky picks up here. So anyway, this story is basically about, first they introduce a new character, a detective who I think is really cool, and I think he'd work out on the big screen. And I think, oddly enough, Dwayne Johnson would never take this role, but I think he'd be perfect if he let his ego give him a role where he's being defeated the whole time, which he's never going to take. But I think because Detective Cole is like a good dude, uh, just kind of follows the law, but way kind of like overdoes it, a do-gooder kind of guy. So he's basically in Daredevil's way this whole time. But I like the character. He's a nuisance, but you like him. You kind of get where he's coming from. Just takes it over the top. Tell me that's not Dwayne Johnson. But
he's massive too, and the size aspect of him, he's absolutely a unit in this series. So I could see that. I almost was thinking of Alan Richson the whole time. Obviously, he's white, so it's somewhat different. But it just reminded me of like his Jack Reacher role, kind of, and with Amazon right now. It's just this massive burly dude who, he does seem to be, his heart's in the right place with everything. He's just a little over the top of things, but could totally see this on screen.
Yeah, and overall, do you like this character? I'm pretty sure this is his first appearance. Do you think he fits well into the Daredevil universe?
I think he does. I mean, one of his first lines when he first came in brought in like the moral quandary that I love so much about Daredevil stories. Again, on screen, but now I'm starting to see on paper. And one of his first lines was, "What did this hero think he's going to turn this crook's life around if he was beat to hell by a guy in a devil suit?" It's kind of like, that's one way of putting it. And he goes, I don't think this guy did it because it's right. I think because he needs to do it. And at this point of the story, we're seeing a Matt who is crumbling. And I'm not sure what happened right before this, so I wanted to ask you about that because obviously some major events led up right to this. There's some mental stuff he's dealing with, which is always a thing. But so I like the thing the detective brought up. I'm liking his role in this. But yeah, is there a main like tragedy that happened right before this story?
I mean, don't even get me started. All of Daredevil's comics are just his life breaking
Tragedies.
down to a pulp every time. It's so depressing. And on that note, I actually finally just ordered the opposite. Apparently, Mark Waid wrote a whole thing. Everyone loves it so much, but it's like an optimistic, more lighthearted side of Daredevil, which doesn't sound appealing for the character to me. It's like saying like Wolverine's not killing anymore. Here's a comic. I don't want to see that. Anyway, I've heard so much about how good it is. I gave it a shot, but we'll see about that. But every other comic, it's kind of depressing in a really fun hero comic book way, in a dark, grounded, gritty way. He's always just fucking up, whether it's fucking up his life or a loved life of someone's ruining their life.
Right.
It's just always the worst for him. So
classic Matt.
And it continues because he's out doing his vigilanting, and so he's beating guys up and he accidentally kills someone, and that's the main thing about this comic. There's also a conspiracy about someone setting him up for the murder. He doesn't believe he killed the person, so all the laws against him, though, I mean, all the evidence points directly to him. But I mean, he's investigating. He's trying to figure out who had access to the body in between the murder and the funeral or something like that. So he's looking into it, but obviously we know Daredevil is probably going to not end up as a murderer. But it is interesting. Now there's a conspiracy, and we also know Kingpin didn't do it because Daredevil was listening, and Kingpin privately said out loud that it was not him. And he would love to know who did or something like that. So it's interesting.
It is. And I kind of had the feeling already he was going to get proven innocent, even not knowing, not having read Daredevil comics in the past. But again, because it reminded me of Punisher season 2, where Punisher takes out a group of people or shoots up a room and there's 3 innocent women killed, and he's got this whole guilt. He thinks he murdered these innocent women, this whole thing, and if he finds out that it was a setup, he didn't actually murder those women. But he thought he was, which is hilarious because the Punisher kills people constantly, but it was innocent women compared to thugs, whereas Matt, it was just murder in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the mystery aspect to it.
Yeah. Nice little tense plot point to kind of cling on to. That's kind of what the whole story is relying on right there. Matt's a murderer. Detective Cole, this new uppity detective's after him. And eventually they do cross paths, and Detective Cole North, shoots Daredevil. So that sucks. That probably hurt, and I was injured. Now he's in trouble. So he's looking at possibly. Did they arrest him? I forgot at the end of this comic, or did he just get away injured? No, that's when the Punisher came in and started
yes,
shooting.
The Punisher
up the
shot up everything.
That's right. And then so Daredevil escapes thanks to the Punisher. Like real mean to the Punisher after the Punisher helped him quite a bit. And he's like, "Oh, I'm a devil. Here's my guns." But pretty rough. Yeah, that's
Pride
right.
was kicking in.
And then that also we already talked about it. But from there, Mac goes home, and that's when we get the interaction with Spider-Man. And Spider-Man says, "Dude, you're a murderer. Shut this down." And not a single joke or quip. He tells him to stop, which he does. And we don't see him suit up in Volume 2, but it is one of the best volumes, in my opinion.
Straight up. Yeah. There was one other thing. Oh, we also got in this volume again, which is something I'm sorry. Look, it's probably just going to happen every time. Some from the Netflix series. We get the dialogue with him and the priest throughout that series, and we got a few of those panels in here with some good little one-liners here and there. You know, Matt being pissed, and him, whether it was flashbacks as a younger Daredevil or during this time. I think one of the times he went to the church after this. But just lines like, "Your sin is hating God. You saved a man's life, and God took your sight. God's revealing the world to you in other ways," as he's talking about the vision and the way Daredevil now sees the world differently than everybody else. And there's just a lot of that stuff in it, but not too much. It was like kind of peppered perfectly throughout the whole reading of this volume. That was another aspect I really liked about these 5 issues.
For sure. I like the doctor's quote that he told Daredevil when he's the one, he might have done the autopsy for that murdered person. He believes Daredevil murdered this guy. But he said, the doctor says, "You know, I've patched up guys who crossed you. All of us here have. If anyone knows how precise you are, how surgical with inflicting violence, it's me. Every one of those people you sent to the hospital gets better. I don't know how you managed to know bodies that intimately, but trust me when I say this, you've screwed up this time." So yeah, but like I like that dialogue on like how precise he is with people's bodies, like hurting them enough to let them heal, but shut them down in the moment. But it's crazy. The doctor still does believe he murdered him. It really looks like he did.
Yeah, but that was a cool sign of showing how New Yorkers respect Daredevil, you know, although he's getting so down on himself. And we saw other points of that, like the cop didn't let Cole unmask him in front of everybody because he said, "Look, he's saved brothers of ours. He's saved, you know, family members of ours. We're not going to do him in front of everybody. We'll take the mask off back at the precinct." And so there were just a few different things here and there about how New York has a lot of respect for Daredevil and all the work he has done over the years, even though he's thinking himself as a murderer and evil right now. It was pretty cool little spots there.
Yeah, great line. Someone walks up to Detective Cole and they said, "You know, you made a lot of people happy by making this arrest right now, just not the right people." Meaning the villains are happy. The bad guys are happy that you just arrested or tried to arrest Daredevil.
Straight up.
Good line.
And he's right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I had a question. So, it felt super weird. I almost thought it was a dream at first. But the whole deal with the Defenders saving him from being arrested the second time. Punisher, no, not from being arrested. I think he was just getting his ass whipped by the Owls people. The Defenders save him. And that whole entire sequence, it was like he was drunk or something. I don't know. He thought they were going to arrest him. He's freaking out. They say, "Bro, we're not here to arrest you. We're just making sure you're okay. Like, you're running around with the Punisher shirt on. Like, you just don't look like you're being good. Like, are you good?" And he's like, "You know, I accidentally killed somebody." And like, "Oh man, we get it. Look, it happens. Like, I've accidentally done that." And he's like, "You're a bunch of murderers."
Yeah,
like, whoa,
dude,
what?
Like, come on, man.
He's freaking out. And then they say, "Dude, you're wearing a Punisher shirt." And he goes, "What? Oh, I didn't notice. I just needed a shirt." I was like, "Wait, hold on. So the whole reason he accidentally put the Punisher shirt on?" So that whole sequence of events, it felt hella weird. I was confused by like the state of mind he's in if he accidentally put on Punisher's shirt and was running around fighting crime. Weird. I don't know. That was the only kind of nitpick I had with these 5 issues was that little sequence. I was like, this feels like a fever dream right now. I'm waiting for him to wake up.
Right. I wonder if anything explains that, at least the shirt. But he was a huge dick to the Defenders, which he usually is. As I said, his life crumbles in his stories all the time. And they're always there to be like, "Dude, come on, man. Like, blah, blah, blah." Classic. So it's kind of that relationship in Daredevil comics. But
Okay.
Sure. I hope they explain that. Who knows?
It's a little odd. Yeah.
Yeah, but that covers the story. Let's wrap it up with talking about the art a little bit, but also, if you want, Daredevil was involved in a couple of those polls on YouTube. Maybe we could discuss them, see if we agree.
What do we
All right,
got?
so, but the art. Chechetto's art is number one for me, with all Daredevil comics, at least. Amazing. The way he drew the Punisher, the way he drew the Spider-Man, the way he drew Daredevil, even Detective Cole looked pretty badass. The action, the scenery, the lighting, I don't know, the faces, everything is, it's like some of the best art, Chechetto.
So, has he been on any other? I doubt it. On any other ones we've kind of read or covered that you would know that I've read. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with them.
No, you haven't read it, but the Jonathan Hickman Ultimate Spider-Man, he's on that, and it's freaking gorgeous. So
Is that like last year's? The
yeah,
super
it's still
recent
coming
okay.
out, right?
Okay. All right, I'll have to checking that out. Yeah, I liked it. I will say I really didn't like the cover art for issue 1.
Me neither.
But then I liked issue 1 was weird. It kind of, I don't know. It had a weird feel to it.
Yeah.
But issue 2 I liked it a lot more, and I started liking the cover art a lot more, which I don't know, it might be a different artist who does the cover art. Sometimes that's the case. But as far as the overall story, I don't know if it was like top 3 of my favorite art, but it was definitely up there. I really enjoyed it. I liked it almost felt like a balance between crisp and clean, like some of the stuff we've read during the New
gritty.
Avengers stuff. But gritty, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a street kind of gritty, grimy feel to it, but still clean in aspects. And
Perfect
I like that combination. Exactly. Yeah. So it felt just right, I'll say. So it wasn't like my favorite, but it felt perfectly fit for the story it was telling. So I really enjoyed that. And that's funny. You knew exactly the word I was about to combine with that. So,
and I was trying to think of the clean part. I couldn't think of like gritty and what is the other word, but yeah, clean but gritty.
Yeah. No, I liked it.
So how about rating? What are you feeling on ratings? And then after that, how you feeling moving forward? You excited for volume 2?
So as far as ratings go, and I always forget, I don't know that I've made a list of comic ratings at this point.
I finally started to.
Okay. And I should have. I'm going to check real quick. Because I'm trying to remember what I gave the last one we covered, which was
New Avengers. It was that way they were traveling multiverses, meeting different. It's like right after Infinity.
Yeah. Well, and then didn't we do a different one though that you were saying that you thought I would like a lot? Right. I thought it was after.
That was this one. I thought you'd really like this one.
Well, that too. Sorry, I thought there was something else, a Penguin story or a Batman story. Oh, Kraven's Last Hunt. That's what it was. Maybe.
Yeah, just for that.
So I'm trying to remember what I rated Kraven's Last Hunt there. But I would say, forgetting all previous things, just if I had to go 1 to 10 based off of this, I'd say probably like an 8.5, 8.6. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Exactly
so it wasn't the best, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked going to each issue ending. I was ready to hop. It ended every issue really well. Sometimes really it doesn't. Yes, they did a really good job at leading into the next issue. And I wanted to continue reading after issue 5 here until I realized it was part 1 of something else. But just because the way it ended, I loved the feel to it. I'm very curious to see what goes on with Daredevil moving forward. I know there's not going to be a lot of action because he's relinquishing Daredevil, which is usually a storyline. Yes, that's very common, and that's a storyline that we typically are not fans of. Like, we want to see our heroes being the heroes, not losing everything. But I trust the way this is written. I'm very curious to see the dialogue going forward and him kind of finding himself and wrestling with the morality of everything. You made mention that he had some discussions with Reed Richards, which I'm very interested to read. So I'm going into it not expecting action in the next volume, but I'm very interested to read it because of the way they wrote this first one.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to that. It's definitely one of the best slow comics I've ever read. Just fun. I love philosophy, so just digging into some of that, including the philosophy of crime and its effects on society, which is really fun. And later we get with Kingpin as mayor, he starts to get actually kind of bullied by, your aristocrats, people who are just crazy, wealthy, international, and they start kind of working him because they know, like there's a lot of really cool stuff to look forward to. So,
okay. I like
Yeah.
that. So there's kind
Yeah.
of like a more elite system we're gonna
Yes.
see that sees Kingpin's rise
Yeah.
and goes to use him as a tool. Kind of, I like
Yeah.
that.
It's really
What
fun.
it's interesting too, and this again, spoiler free. Everybody knows that with the Daredevil series that is out now, Fisk is running for mayor. He's the mayor in this storyline, and it's just I'm not no spoilers, but it's very interesting to see some things that parallel stuff that's going on right now, and a lot of stuff with world powers and Fisk rising to power. So it kind of obviously Fisk is mayor in this too. So there's some parallels there, but I'm really curious in both. I'm very curious to see what they do in the show with that and going forward with this series.
Yes. Can't freaking wait. All right, before we get out of here, a couple polls that Daredevil are involved in. So let's just freaking see what we think. One of them says the Beyonder shoves these 4 characters into an abandoned warehouse. Who comes out alive? We got Daredevil, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Deathstroke with 24 votes. Last place, we got Nightwing at 4%.
Oh, my boy.
Second to last is Red Hood, 13%. I'm kind of agreeing with it so far. And then third place, a switch up on the winner this past week, but third place is Deathstroke with 33%.
Hey.
Daredevil takes it with a clean 50%, which do you agree Daredevil beats Deathstroke?
Okay, this is tough. I mean,
is.
I hate that my boy's at the bottom, even though the best argument I could make is a tie with Red Hood. But outside of that, sorry, Nightwing, you're my guy. But I know he defeated Deathstroke, I think once or something. But again, that's things happen. Maybe that didn't even actually happen. But anyways, Deathstroke and Daredevil is tough. But I like to think Daredevil at his absolute peak with his echolocation and his radar sense of everything. I like to think at his absolute peak he takes it.
Yeah.
But I haven't read Deathstroke stories, so I understand. Although I love him, I am somewhat of a novice as far as it goes to his accolades over time. But from what I have seen, the guy is an absolute just unit.
And he's supposed to be enhanced, like a kind of a super soldier. I thought he's supposed to be like extra brain power, extra strength, but he's not extra. He's not like fly. He's not extra fast, I don't think. So I think the Daredevil senses kind of have to take it. I don't know, but I feel like I would lean Deathstroke. He just seems like, because he's enhanced. He's enhanced and he's an assassin. He's super trained and he's got the Batman tactics. He does the whole thing Batman does. I think he was League of Shadows trained. I don't know. I think this is really hard. It's basically strength versus basically spider senses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really hard. I don't know.
It's one of those that's going to come down to like the craziest thing where Matt's on his back heel and he takes the lights out or something and then is able to, I don't know, something like that. But I guess in an open lit up street, just one-on-one, they're stuck there.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe you got to go with Deathstroke there. He's much more willing to kill as well. So there's no hesitation there.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that.
Oh, dude, that's one of the coolest possible matches.
There's so many talented people out there on YouTube. Somebody get a couple of cast members and let's see a dope face-off between the two. We've seen amazing fan videos on Star Wars stuff. Let's see Deathstroke versus Daredevil. Somebody make it happen. Chat, anybody?
All right. Who consistently has the best comics out of these 4? And it goes in ascending order anyway. But last place, Superman. Out of 37 votes, Superman is at 5%. Wow. Third place, Green Lantern at 24%, then Spider-Man at 30%, and Daredevil takes it at 41%. We didn't mean for this to happen. I mean, we included Daredevil because it's Born Again time, but yeah, he's winning both of them so far.
Wow. That just gets me excited moving forward with reading this stuff. Yeah. That's surprising about Spider-Man though, because again, I haven't really read anything Spider-Man wise much other than One More Day and something else. But a lot of the consensus I get is the majority of his stuff is not that great from what I hear.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hear that a lot. So I'm surprised to see him up higher than Green Lantern.
Yeah, I mean, he has a handful of absolute peak comics and a lot of good ones. But yeah, I would definitely, to be honest, I think Superman comics are better than Spider-Man on a consistent basis. Yeah? My personal rating would be Spider-Man, Superman, and it's really hard. But yeah, Green Lantern and Daredevil has consistently the best comics out of those. I'd put Batman above him, but that's why I didn't put Batman in this list.
Oh, so Daredevil's at the top. You went top to bottom, so you threw me off there for
I'm
a
sorry.
second.
Yeah, I went the opposite. You know, I mean,
Okay.
Spider-Man's my bottom, and then
Okay.
Superman.
Got you.
So, but Green Lantern's
Yeah.
top two. But yes, almost every single Daredevil run is just really good. Like almost every one.
God, I'm stoked to keep going then. Hey, we got a good topical question here in the chat. I don't know if you saw down there, but Daniel Rosa says he's read Born Again and A Man Without Fear, but what do you think is a good Daredevil run to invest in? I know Chip Zdarsky's is highly regarded, but there's so many. I was thinking OG, just reading more Frank Miller too.
Frank Miller's a safe
I can't
bet.
answer, so
Yeah, Frank Miller's a safe bet for like. I mean, just establishing Kingpin and Bullseye and Elektra especially. I mean, those are like the four big players in that Hell's Kitchen universe. After Frank Miller, I would skip it all and go to Brian Michael Bendis because I mean that's probably my single favorite. After Bendis, you go to Brubaker, another amazing comic. After Brubaker, you actually go into Shadowland where he becomes kind of a villain running the hand. It's such a cool event concept, but it didn't really execute that well, in my opinion.
I've read one of those issues for some reason. It must have been tied into some event at some point because I've read one of those on that Marvel app where he was leading the hand.
Yes, so such a cool concept, but they didn't pull it off. And after Shadowland is when you get into the Mark Waid. It's like an optimistic, lighthearted Daredevil run where a lot of people still love it though. After Mark Waid, then you get in directly to Charles Soule, and like we talked about in this episode, you know where Charles Soule leads, right to Zdarsky. So it's every single one of those, and I'll find out about Mark Waid soon. But I would, if you're doing Frank Miller, Daniel Rosa there. Yeah, finish it if you like it. If it's got that old style that doesn't really sit with you well, like me, unfortunately, I would Brian Michael Bendis. Just go straight to his Daredevil. It's amazing. Kingpin, Bullseye, Elektra are all in there. He freaking carves a bullseye into the forehead of Bullseye. Like physically carves one, blood, like beats the crap out of Kingpin and overtakes the Empire and pretty much says, yo, this is my criminal empire now. Like it is a badass, very Netflix feeling comic. Even the aesthetics feel like Netflix. It's very close to that.
Dude, I think I'm gonna have to go through all of it. Real quick, Brubaker. What's the run he does?
Well, it starts with Daredevil in prison and Kingpin's in prison, Bullseye's in prison. That is my favorite arc of Brubaker's. It is badass. People are scared of Daredevil. Some people think he is killing people, and Punisher comes in for an awesome cameo again, and I think it's a cooler cameo. And then outside of that, just keeps doing Daredevil stuff when he gets out of prison.
Okay. I love Winter Soldier, Brubaker's Winter Soldier run there with Cap there. So I'm gonna try to run through all these from what it sounds like. They all sound dope.
Nothing but heat.
There you go.
All right, I think that wraps it up for today. Thanks for joining us at Why So Sidious, a Nerd Podcast. We will continue. Look out for our Road to Secret Wars, our next edition there. And then again, of course, we'll probably be amping up more Daredevil-oriented stuff while Born Again's out. So look forward to Volume 2 somewhat soon. And we will keep moving. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Oh, fuck yeah. That was so clutch, dude. 33 minutes, and it was good.
Solid. Got the spoiler review in there. Got the full volume. Answered some polls. That was an efficient-ass episode right there. Good deal.
A couple good posts. The reading order post should be due. I mean,